Well, good afternoon, everybody. This is Yovette, Painting with Yovette. Now, I just love this painting. Okay, to begin with, this is my palette. You notice that I just kind of bring a little bit of paint down on each color. And I always load my palette the same way because that way you never get confused. And that's really great. So, to start off with, we're going to use the oil painting medium. And what I want to do is take my little blue shop cloth, you know, this is like a paper towel you get at Costco. And the reason I love these is because they're lint-free and they just do a wonderful job of painting on a canvas or putting oil on a canvas. And you know, I always use a smooth canvas, so mine has been gessoed and sanded. And so this goes on very, very smoothly. If you don't have this, then if your canvas is rough, then you're going to have to use a brush to put it on. So the next step is we're going to take a little Indian yellow. Now, Indian yellow is just a gorgeous color, and as you can see, it's transparent, which makes it really glow when you add white to it. So start off by just going across your mountain. Hopefully you all have this underpainting done in the gesso, black and white. You don't have to do that. You can just do this whole painting in just regular oils if you'd prefer, or even acrylic if you want to try that. So anyway, with the Indian yellow, and just go right across your mountains, go across the trees, blend up just a little tiny bit in the sky. And the next color I want to use is yellow ochre, and I'm just going to go above the yellow because I want just a slightly, very slightly darker shade of yellow. It doesn't change the color very much, it just adds a little bit more depth to the sky, which is nice. And again, just sort of blend it up into the white a little bit. You want to make that thin enough going up that you can add the next color to it so that they blend really well together. Okay, my next color, my favorite, well, almost my favorite, is just plain bright red. Bright red mixed with these yellows is just outstanding. And you just start again going into the yellow a little bit and just go all the way across. Keep going right over your trees. That's not going to make any difference at all. And every once in a while just kind of blend down a little bit into the yellow, making a very smooth transition. Makes a very, very pretty sky. Excuse me, as you can probably tell, my voice is a little bit funny. I have been sick for, this is going on my third week now. So my next color, Alizarin crimson, another beautiful color. Of course, all the colors are beautiful. So if you have different kind of paints, don't worry about that. Just use the color that's closest because your painting will still turn out absolutely beautiful. So now taking that alizarin and blend up a little bit and also blend down a little bit so that you are mixing those colors together one into the other. And the next color that I'm going to use is phthalo blue. You can use Prussian blue if you don't have phthalo. They're both very pretty. Either one will work. So starting at the very top corner, wow, that is really blue. And you know, I want this to be more of an evening sky, so that's too blue for me. So let's add alizarin crimson to it. And that alizarin and blue make a very pretty kind of a lavender color. So, oh, now isn't that a lot better? Okay, so adding that two colors, the alizarin and the blue, and just go across the top of the sky. That's what would be the very darkest part of the sky, and just sort of blend down into that alizarin. And oh my, that is so pretty. I just love that. I just love these color combinations in the sky. There's just no end to what you can do with them. Okay, and we're going to go into the water and do the very same thing that we did on the top, except that we're just going the reverse. So our yellow would be the first color, just like we did in the sky, and then a little bit of the ochre underneath and blending that down. Just a tiny bit more here. And this water is reflective of your sky. So what you have in the sky oftentimes is exactly what you're going to have in the water. So then let's add the red to that, making a very pretty reddish color. Maybe it's just almost kind of a pinky color right now. Excuse me. I may have to stop and cough or something. If so, I'll pause the video for a minute, but hopefully that's not going to happen. I've got my water beside me, a little cup of hot tea. Hopefully that's going to tide me over. Okay, so we've got the alizarin in there. Now a little bit of blue and alizarin to make our lavender combination. And just starting at the bottom of the water, just go ahead all the way across and just make that water blend up and into the alizarin. So see, isn't that perfect? It's just a complete opposite of the sky color, but it looks so real. I just love that. And these, you know, you guys have been asking and asking for more black and white, more black and white. So I'm not going to do a tremendous amount of them, but I will do this one, and I think I have another one following this that'll be kind of fun. Maybe I have, I don't know, we'll see. Who knows what next month is going to bring. Every month is different in our household, as some of you know. Okay, so now taking a clean 1-inch brush and using only the corner, just the very, very corner of that brush, dip into white and get a good amount of white on there. Go ahead and tap it, and right here above the mountain, I want you to start using crisscross strokes and adding that pure white into the yellow. Tap your brush because it's going to pick up a lot of yellow, so you want to keep the brush as clean as possible. Go back and reload into your white and do the crisscross strokes again, and each time you do this it gets a little bit whiter. And what this is actually doing is making that glow right there above the mountaintops, and it is so pretty. I mean, it just is really neat the way it's just like a sun glow. You can't see the sun, but you really know it's right there. So one more time, let's go right over that same little place, and this time spread it out into your mountains a little bit, because you want that it's kind of like a mist, and you just want that to go out over your mountains. Excuse me. There, now that is absolutely lovely. You couldn't ask for a prettier sky with a nice bright glow to it. I really like that. Oh. You know, when I lived in Alaska, we got to see these sunrises and sunsets every day because we lived right on the Wrangell mountain range. And so early in the morning, you know, they have 24 hours of sunlight almost in Alaska. So every morning we got to see a sunrise, and then every evening a gorgeous sunset. Oh, it was just beautiful. I kind of miss that a little bit. But then again, I don't. I love Oregon, where we are now. Oregon is very nice. Okay, what I'm doing with my fan brush, I'm taking a little bit of brown and sap green, and I haven't got too much on the brush. It's fairly thin, but what I'm doing is just creating little treetops way back off in the distance. I just want a hint of green shade back there. You know, the dark that we put in with the gesso, that pretty much laid out the basic landscape part. But now I just want to add these little touches of green. This is such a typical scene of Alaska. I'll tell you, that's one gorgeous state. I don't miss the snow, definitely, but the summers are outstanding. The summers are so warm and just beautiful. The colors, the foliage, everything is just gorgeous in Alaska. So continue with these little trees. Now I moved over to the filbert brush now. It just helps to get that in a little bit better. Oh no, I didn't either. I'm sorry. What am I talking about? Sorry, my mind isn't here all together. Okay. Under your trees, just smooth out the land a little bit and just let that little bit of green and brown come down into the land part. What I want to do now is add more green, more brown. I'm making a bit of a richer color because I want to start adding a little bit of definition in the trees, you know, the ones that would be closer to you and they would stand out a little bit more. So this is a typical tree that I do with the fan brush. I have videos on doing trees and evergreen trees and different kinds of trees if you want to look on my channel. I have, I think, a whole section of just nothing but trees. So that if you're struggling with trees a little bit, maybe that would help you out. I'll put a link in the description below so that you can check it out if you want to. So just continue on with these trees, the evergreens. And bear in mind, these have to be on the smaller side because they are off in the distance. And don't make every one of them just exactly alike, like this little section here. I have actually 3 trees. It's just 3 evergreens together. And the 2 outer ones are just slightly slanted outwards because I don't want them all stick straight. So it's just kind of a little cluster, and I think that's really pretty. And so now just touch up any trees that you want and then wipe your brush off really good, just so that there's just a hint of color. And now go back up into these mountains here and see where we put in with the gesso, we put in the indication of little trees going up the mountainside. Well, just give that just a little hint of color. That's always very pretty. Not too dark either. You don't want that dark. Excuse me. I'm going to be doing a lot of this. I'm so sorry you have to listen to me. But better times are coming, right? Yes. Anyway, go ahead and just touch up any of these trees that you want. Add some. You can't take them away, but you can always add something that will be of a little bit more interest. Now, like here, I put in just 2 together. So I've got a group of 3, and then I've got 1, and then I've got 2, and then a couple of 1s. So you can just do your trees any way you like. You do not have to ever follow everything that I'm doing. What I do is just what I do, and so you do what you do. So now this is coming along very nicely. I like the way this is developing. This does look like it's way off in the distance, and yet these evergreens, these particular ones, do look like they're closer, which is what I wanted to achieve. And let's just make this one a little bit taller. I don't want them all the same height. That looks a little weird. I hope you guys are following along with me. I paint slow enough that you probably can do that with no problem at all. As a matter of fact, I get comments sometimes. People say, oh, you are so slow, boring. And others just absolutely love the fact that I go slow, because that way they can actually follow along with me and paint. And I like that. I like being slower and having people be able to follow me if that's what they choose to do. So now I'm starting over with a 1-inch brush, clean 1-inch brush, landscape brush, and I'm going into green, black, and brown. And now what I want to do is just the ground cover, and you will not be able to see this over the black gesso, but it's there and is just ever so lightly giving a hint of shade to the undercolor. Now when I'm doing this, notice that I just go right over the tree. It won't make any difference because we're going to do the tree last, or probably pretty much last. And so this is just giving a little color to the ground. Now let's reload again. Little green, black, and brown on the 1-inch brush. You don't have to be too careful with this. The only thing I would say is don't get it in your water. That's the one thing that we don't want, is the green water. There's too many pretty colors in the water. So just continue on. Again, just keep going right over the trees. Doesn't make any difference. Just cover all that land, back and forth. And like I say, that does not show up now, but when we put the top coat on, it will pick up that green underneath and it will show absolutely fine. So now, still continuing with the green, black, and brown, I'm just pulling down a little bit on the shore edge of the water. I just want to start making a shadow so that we can just kind of reflect that color into the water. Even though you can't see it, it's going to be showing in the water. So just take your brush and just tap it in the green mixture and just touch the edge where the water is and just pull straight down. And I'm not pulling down really far. I'm just pulling down, probably a ½ inch or so. And that gives your painting a lot of depth. Now that was pretty easy to do. Just bring it down, just pull little teeny pulls. And see how it's reflecting into the water now? That's all we need. There, that's perfect. Just perfect. Okay, I want you to just wipe that brush really good. Just get all the excess off. And now I want you to start pulling across the water to kind of blend those reflections, to kind of make them glossy. And when I'm doing this, now I'm pulling from the outer edge into the center. I never go from the center out, always pull from the outer edge in. The reason, because if you touch your water with a brush full of paint, it's going to leave a big glob of brown in there, or green, and I don't think you want that. Okay, now I'm back into my fan brush. I just am going to lighten just a few of the trees, just a very few, using just yellow ochre. That's all I have on my brush, and I'm just barely touching. I just want to bring in just sort of a mixture of color here, so it's not just all solid green. If you wanted, you could even add a touch of red in there. That would be pretty. I should have thought I should do that, but I'm already into this. Okay, so smooth it out a little bit on the bottom if it needs smoothing. And if you like what you see, then just leave it alone. And if you don't like what you see, go ahead and fix it, whatever it might be. And now I'm just blending a little bit on the bottom, just blending that yellow. This is an original painting, by the way. This is my own composition. It's not a copy of anybody else. It's just something I sketched out when I was bored and just wanted something to do. I do that a lot, just pull out a piece of paper and just start sketching something. Even when I'm driving, I like to do that. Just pull out an old envelope or piece of paper, and if I see a scene that I like, or a mountain, a tree, it could be anything, a building, I'll just start sketching. And it gives me lots of good ideas for future paintings, which is nice. So now I've gone into some yellow and just a slight, very, very slight bit of white. And I have taken my brush, and I'm the 1-inch landscape brush. Just pull down and push back so that you get a little ridge of paint on your brush. And that's what will give you that nice brighter highlight. See, like in the center right there under where the sun would be rising? Well, that's where you want your brightest land. So little taps. I'm not tapping hard. These are very, very, very light touches. And just going back and to side and down to the water. I want to stay away from going into the water. I don't want to go into the water. And as I go back towards the right side, I'm lightening my touch so that I don't have a lot of color back there. It just is more realistic. And just continue with this process and make sure that you leave a lot of dark areas, because it's the dark that gives you the depth. The highlight gives you some nice features too, but that darkness is what gives you, that shadow gives you the depth that you need for the land. Okay, I'm liking that. That's looking pretty good. So let's reload again. A little white, little yellow. You can add a little yellow ochre every once in a while if you want. You can add a little red if you want, or you can just keep it in the yellow tones. And I've chosen to pretty much keep it in the yellow tones, although I do pick up a little Indian once in a while. And sometimes a little ochre. It just changes the color slightly. Again, reloading, white, yellow, see? But now see where where the sun would be rising? That's where I have my bright area. So reloading again. Now let's go to the other side, and again, just touching the tops. Just the tips of the brush. I'm going right up to the tree. If I went over it, it wouldn't make any difference because I'm going to be covering the tree anyway. So just keep on going with this little tapping motion. Remember, leave the darks. Go to the next little mound here and just touch on the top and just lightly, lightly, lightly come back into the background. And as I'm going back, I'm still lightening my touch because I want to see the indications of grasses, but I don't want to see a big glob of paint because this is in the distance. And all your light is more centered towards the center, so stay away from the sides. There, I like that. That's starting to look pretty good. That's just a few more taps here. Just a couple. And you can make this center part as bright as you want. But don't get it too bright. Just those little taps. Now that's very nice. I like that. Okay, next, my palette knife. A lot of you have a lot of struggles with a palette knife. And it's really not that difficult. It just takes a lot of practice and a very light touch. So I've put together a mix of brown and white, and I'm just going to bring in the indication of a few river rocks, stones along the edge of the water. And my touch is just feather light. It just is extremely light. I put the point on the canvas, of the point of the knife on the canvas, and then I just drag to the left, depending on which bank I'm on. I'll either drag to the left or I'll drag to the right. So this time I'm dragging to the left. And it just leaves that nice little brown color there, like there was a bit of rocks and stones and just nice things to look at. So on the left side of the painting, on the left banks, then I would be pulling to the right side. And like I say, my touch is very, very light. And my mix on the knife is just brown, just burnt sienna, or dark sienna, it is dark sienna, and a little white. Sometimes I throw in a little ochre with that. Anyway, bring this right down to the water. Just little dirt banks. That is so pretty, and it adds a lot of interest to the painting. Otherwise, it would just be so green. Green is pretty, I love green, but it can be overbearing. Okay, just keep on going now with this mix, and wherever you think that there should be a little rock or a stone, just go ahead and just put that in, just leading with either the heel of your knife or the toe of your knife. Oh, I'm liking that. That is very, very pretty. Yeah, I like that a lot. Okay, now I want to add some white to that mix and a little bit of ochre. So I've got a little brown, a little white, and a little ochre, and I'm making a marbled mix. I'm sorry you're not seeing my canvas so easily. It's just very hard the way I'm painting to show my my palette. Very hard to show my palette at the same time I'm painting. So now I want to go over these stones and just highlight with this light colored mix. And then the highlight is even lighter, a lighter touch than it is with the under part of the rocks. So just barely touch, just barely graze, just so softly. See, if you just lighten your touch, if you're having difficulty with this particular step, lighten your touch, and the canvas will grab the amount of paint that it wants, and it'll leave the rest. So if you start pushing, all it does is make mud. It just mixes your colors, and that's what you end up with, is mud. Not very attractive. Okay, let's go ahead and Just, oh, just a tiny bit more. And now just add some dark, dark brown. I'm just going to go underneath these rocks here and the stones and just plain brown, solid color. And I'm just going underneath along the bank edge to give it that little bit of depth, like there's some actual real dirt down there along the edge. Pull it flat, pull and out. And that gives you just the perfect little roll of paint to be able to do this kind of work. I know making water lines, you use the same technique, and I know it's not easy to learn, but if you keep practicing, just pull your paint out as flat as you can get it, and then pull your knife down about 1/2 inch and across, and that'll load your knife perfectly. Okay, continue on with just a little bit of land, a little bit of dark dirt underneath these rocks along the bank's edge, and see how that just pops it? Just brings it to life. It just makes it look so real. So, whoop, there's a boo-boo. But that's okay. We'll just make a rock out of it and just put a little water line underneath it, and it'll be just fine. Now let's go ahead, as long as we have that nice light color, lighter color. If you want to put a few little tree trunks in your evergreens, now would be the time to do that. Just a couple of light ones. Don't make a solid, strong line. Just kind of mix it up a little bit. And just put 1 or 2 here and there just to break it up some. Are you guys liking this painting? You know, also, do you guys have any questions for me? If you have questions, why don't you write them down in the comment area? And I'd sure be glad to answer them, maybe on a future video, maybe the next video, I don't know, we'll see. Yeah, I love answering your questions. I answer a lot of them by email and by comments and just even by telephone. So anyway, down into the rocks. All I want to do, I put a few rocks in there with gesso, and so what I want to do is just mix up the color a little bit. I've got some of the brown rocks, some of the black rocks, and the rocks in the front edge would be a lot bigger because they are very close to you, whereas as the water goes back, the rocks get smaller and smaller and lighter in color. So now that I've got my dark color in, I'm just going to add a little blue, a little white, a little lavender, or alizarin, excuse me, alizarin, because I want it kind of a very light purplish color. And then just touch the top of those rocks. It just kind of gives it a little bit of a highlight. And if you've not seen me before, or this is your first time watching, as you can see, I'm a left-hander. So if you are a left-hander, go ahead and write me and tell me that. I love talking with left-handers. And also, would you share my video with anybody you know that's a left-hander? And even if they're not left-handed, if you're liking this, would you share the video, please? I always appreciate shares. I'll tell you, it means a lot to me. It helps my channel to grow, and it's just very nice. Man, and I just appreciate it so much. I know I keep saying that, but I do. So now I have 2 piles of white paint that I've spread out. Now the first pile, I'm adding just some phthalo blue. I don't want it too dark, but I do want to be able to see it. Kind of a bright color because it's going to be a reflective light. To the other pile, I'm adding this red, just plain bright red, but very little, because I don't want it bright red. It's just kind of like a little pink color, and then just a touch of yellow to make it more of a salmon-y color. And that's going to be the highlight part of the trees. And again, we're going to be working with the knife. I don't know about you guys, but I love knife work. It's just a lot of fun. And it took me forever to learn how to use a knife, but once I did, oh, it's fun. Okay, using the small tip of my knife, the small edge, the short edge, I should say. I'm just lightly touching on the right side of the tree. And that's the tree on this side, on the right side. And just come up both those limbs and just a little bit here and there. Just very thin roll. You don't want much at all. Now on this tree, because this tree is on the other side of the sun, you want to highlight the left side rather than the right side. Very light touch, again, very light. And just kind of skip a few spots and just hit here and there. Spread it out just a tiny bit. And see against that dark, see how that just made it glow? It just really, really made it pop. So a little bit more over here. Oh, that's nice. That's so pretty. I can see I'm going to have to touch up that right side tree a little bit because it's a little bit too much blue, but that's an easy fix. Okay, just grab some brown and that's all it is. Just grab some brown, a dark color, and just go ahead and go over that blue a little bit and just kind of cover it up where you got it too much. Just light touches. Try not to smear it though, because you can end up with a lot of smears. Boy, I'm surprised my voice is not giving out. I thought I was going to lose my voice earlier. I've been fighting and struggling with voice problems for like going on, this is my third week now. Funny, it wasn't a cold, it wasn't the flu. I have no idea what it was, but whatever it was very uncomfortable. Okay, this branch, I don't like this branch. It needs to come into the painting a little bit more because that tree is kind of leaning outwards. One of my viewers brought that to my attention, and thank you very much for that. Anyway, I just want to add a little bit more to the tree to make it not so left-sided, I guess I would say. And I noticed that earlier on the undercoating, I would have done that. So anyway, I didn't, so we will continue on. Now I want to just, with that dark color, a black color, just go ahead and make a few little trunks, branches I should say, on the right-hand tree. Just to add a little bit more to that tree because I didn't do it in the undercoating. I sort of stopped my trunk and I should have added some branches to that, but I didn't. So I'm putting them in afterwards, and it still works. It'll work fine. I love the way this sponge made this tree because it looks like it's almost like a silhouette. I think that is so cool. I really like that. So here we go with the pink now, or the salmon-y color. Now this is the highlighted side of the tree. So on the right tree, we're highlighting the left. Just light little touches, just little dabs, kind of skipping spaces every once in a while. Now you can, if your tree is more straight, you can use the long edge of the knife, which is a lot easier than using this little short edge. The short edge works for me, but for someone who's just trying to start learning how to paint, it might be a little bit more difficult. So now to the other side, and here I am using the long edge and just sort of skipping along, almost like I was doing the snow on the mountains. That's what it's like. And just highlighting the right side of the left tree. Is that confusing enough? Oh. Anyway, continue on. Just little taps and go into the ground there a little bit. And just hit a few of your branches. Yeah, I like that. That tree turned out pretty good anyway, even if it is slanted the wrong way. Of course, the angle of my camera right now, the way the painting looks, it's really hard to tell. It really is exaggerated looking at the camera. So a few little touches here. And that's looking very, very nice. You know, I always appreciate when you guys do a painting with me or after I've done it and you finish your own. And I really appreciate it when you share your photos with me. I get a lot of photos, and of course, I think towards the end of the year I put together a slideshow of all the viewers that have sent me something. And so that's always fun to look and see if your painting is on there. That's always a lot of fun. And I've gotten a lot of requests too. I have trouble fulfilling all the requests that I get. Trust me, there are a lot of them. And I just do what I can because I don't post very often, as you know. Once a month is at my very best right now. And I'll keep plugging away at it though, little by little. Okay, now I'm taking and just touching with the brown again. Anything that I got too wide on the pink area, I'm covering up, and the same with the blue if I want to cover that. Bring out those edges a little bit on the tree trunk at the base. Okay, now I want to just get a little bit of green and yellow and ochre, all the yellows and green together, and just go ahead and just touch the bottom of the tree just a little bit, because you want to have, like, there's some grassy areas covering its little roots. And don't make it too bright. Now mine is a little brighter than it should be, but don't make it too bright, your grasses. And you know, always you can wait for your painting to dry if you're not liking what you have. You can always wait for it to dry and touch it up afterwards. That works out fine. I do that with just an enormous amount of paintings because I am never satisfied. Typical artist. I am never satisfied with what I create. I always think, oh, I can do this or I can do that and make it just a little teeny bit better. So anyway, now I have my liner brush. I'm dipping into thinner. I want to get a good amount of thinner and a little black and a little brown. Touch of blue. And make a very, very thin, watery mix. I'm going to make birds. If you're not sure about making birds, try it on your palette first. Just make a few birds just to get the feel of it. I just come down kind of like almost like making an M, the letter M, but you just come down and swoop back up, and it's really easy to do. Now when I put it on my canvas, a lot of times I'll wait until the canvas is dry first before I do this. But sometimes I put it on like now, it's wet. And so I just brace my hand somewhere so that I have a very steady hand. And my birds, I don't like to make them all flying the same direction. So you'll notice that I have them flying different directions. I love birds in a painting. You know why? Because it just adds a little bit of life to an otherwise dead painting. Scenery is very pretty, but you know, it needs some sort of life. Speaking of life, I have to learn how to paint cows. I don't know why, but I think I need to learn how to paint cows. I think that would make a great tutorial. Even in something like this, and put a couple of cows in there. Oh. Anyway, back to my painting. Fan brush, a little brown, a little green. And see how I'm tapping the brush, the fan brush, just the corner, I'm tapping it. I just want to get some dark color in here. And the same way that I was tapping on my palette, I'm tapping on the canvas. And watch my brush. I am twisting and turning my brush. I am not pushing hard at all. It's a very light touch, just kind of like leaving little flecks of leaves and color on there. And it's too bad, but my light is so bright where I'm painting that it's casting a brightness on the canvas itself, so you can't see it. But it's really very pretty. But anyway, go to the other tree now. Just a few little touches, just light touches. This tree is just about spent. It's about the end of its years, and it's going to be passing on soon. So we don't want very many leaves. It's not like the other tree. Okay, and now I want to go in, I want to start adding a little bit of red, yellow, and ochre. Let's see, well, just all those lighter colors. Not too much red yet though. And I'm going to do the same thing, only this time I want to watch where I'm tapping. I want to go kind of like more towards the outer edges. I'm not filling in the tree like I did with the green. This is more towards, well, it would be more like where the sun would hit on the outer edges. So just a few taps here and there. You can add more, if you like the red, just definitely go ahead and add more red. The red is really pretty in there. It's very autumny feeling. Of course, my grass, I should probably add more red to the grass too if I'm going to add so much red to the trees. Maybe I'll do that afterwards. After it dries, I can add a little red just by doing like a wash. Just a very thin coat to just tone the grass. Anyway, let's go ahead and do this on the left side tree. Just a few little leaves of color. That's pretty. I like that. Now you don't want to get too many leaves on here because, like I said, this tree is on its way out. It doesn't have many leaves at all. And if you'd prefer, you can make a green tree. It doesn't have to be in the autumn colors. It can be a nice spring green with flowers in it, or like what's the apple tree? Those are gorgeous. Could make any kind of trees that you wanted. I just kind of thought, well, with this color of canvas that I have, I thought these colors would be nice. Okay, now I'm adding just a slight bit of yellow, again staying towards the outer edge, because that's where the light would hit the most. That would be your brightest. Oh, I like that. And now just a little bit of white, and I've got white on here, just a slight bit of white. I've added a touch of blue so it's not pure white. And now just a few little water lines underneath the stones or along the water's edge. And that just pretty much is how it's gonna make that water sort of come to life. It's kind of like a little ripple, kind of rippling a little bit. And again, this is hard. You need to have your paint a little bit thinner, and you also need to have the tiniest roll of paint so that you don't get big blobs of white on there, because that does not look good if you have a big globby white. If you do have a big globby white, like that spot right there, just blend it in with the bottom of your knife, just rub back and forth, and that'll sort of diffuse it into the painting more, kind of lessen the line, so to speak. And I'm going to just highlight a little bit here, just with the knife. I hope you guys really start working with a knife. It is a lot of fun. And now any touch-ups you want to do, like this spot is too blue for me yet, so I'm covering it up with a little brown. You can't even hardly see that with the light that I have on there, but oh well. I wish I knew what kind of lighting I could get that would really show the true colors and not have any glare, especially on a black canvas or any gesso canvas. So here it is, the finished painting. I hope you guys do this, and I hope you love it. And please subscribe if you're new, and please share my video. And thank you for joining me. Love you all. Bye-bye.